Steve, your thoughts on the game? Obviously, a big win for the Ravens. They improved to 5-1. Only two teams in the AFC right now with plus 500 records, the Ravens and the Texans. Obviously, enduring some tough losses. Ladarius Webb, one of the top shutdown corners, and of course, one of the best linebackers, if not the best middle linebacker of all time, Ray Lewis. Your thoughts?
Well, injuries are injuries. I mean, I was at practice today, this afternoon. Things were great. People were excited. Young guys are ready to step up. We were talking about our linebacking crew, and we brought Josh Bynes up from the practice squad, and he's probably going to see some minutes, and he is going to be one of 4 linebackers playing for us: Albert McClellan, and Dannell Ellerbe, and Jameel McLean, and now Josh Bynes, and all 4 of them are undrafted free agents. And so we already have 3 of them playing major roles for us, and now it's just the next guys. So, Coach has been there before, with, whether it's Kaner Medley or, DJ Strawberry out. You just don't stop. You don't have time to stop. You move in, and some of these guys probably believe that they should have been playing more or starting or on our active roster, and so game on, make them do it. So.
Coach Williams, it's always about, as Steve just said, the next man up, right?
Well, if you're a player and you always want to play and you don't want to see anybody get hurt in your team because you're trying to win, obviously, but at the same time, if it does come down to that and you have to step up, here's your chance. You have a chance to prove to Steve, to John Harbaugh, whatever, that you belong in the NFL on the football field and can win games at that level. And I think it's a great opportunity for those players that Steve mentioned.
Steve, some news today about Ray Lewis, placed on IR, but a designated to return tag. So that means for the folks out there, he has to set out 8 weeks before he can return. He's eligible to practice in 6 weeks, but he could possibly play in week 15. He doesn't count right now against a 53-man roster. So some hope maybe late in the year, a good push for the team. Hopefully, obviously, playoffs is looking good right now. So a little glimmer of hope with Ray, right?
Yeah, we had, they cited, Ozzie cited to me yesterday that Edwin Mulatalo came back in 11 weeks from a torn tricep. And that was a long time ago, and now they've got a lot of these blood, spinning and things like that that can accelerate the healing process. And so we're looking into everything now. Ray's ready for surgery in the next few days, and between the advancements in medical technology and then Ray Lewis, then if Mulatalo can do it in 11, then Ray can do it in 8, and that's kind of what we're holding out hope for. And if we can get that done in early December and have maybe 3 games left in the year in the playoffs, then I think it's a whole lot more inspirational for Ray to be recovering for the end of the year than for Ray to be recovering for next year. Yeah. And I think that's going to, we knew what kind of leader we were going to have on the sideline and in the meetings and on the practice field. But if we've got him trying to get back on the field for the late season push, then obviously that's just a dream come true for us. But I would like to ask you to start directing your football questions to Gary and your basketball questions to me.
That's right. You can handle that.
Yeah.
Steve, you take a look at this team right now, and it's kind of interesting with Webb and Lewis going down, and that this year we see the offensive emergence. After many years, this is a team that offensively, if not equal with the defense, maybe carrying the defense a little bit. And I know last year you said, I'm going to paraphrase, that you mentioned that you don't ever want this organization under you to be where the offense is maybe 3rd best in the league, but the defense is down at 28, 29. You'd like to have some balance there.
Here we are.
Yeah. But I know right now, though, that I guess the onus is a little bit more on the offense this year. Even coming in with the loss of Terrell Suggs, there was talk about
the fact that we turn our attention to the offense and have that luxury is a testament to the whole team working together. So, we knew when we signed Ray Rice. I mean, Ray Rice was a 2nd-round draft pick, and after 1 year, we let Willis McGahee go. And you see what Willis is doing for Denver. He's still an incredibly strong back. And
he's on my
fantasy
fantasy
team. I watched that. Well, you were doing great in the second half of the game this week. But you've got guys like Bernard Pierce that we drafted in the 3rd round. They think he's going to be a superstar. Ozzie said he thinks he's 100-yard a game back, and so as unpopular as it was, there was a prospect in the offseason that we wouldn't sign Ray Rice because we couldn't. The contracts are going through the roof. And we liked Anthony Allen and Damian Barry, and then we drafted Pierce, but we ended up re-upping him. So there's only so much money to go around, and we've invested a lot of money and a lot of early round draft picks in the offense. And so, you know, it's a whole team thing. I really don't care whether it's a 10-6 game or a 41-38 game. You just want to be able to compete in both of those games and not be on the bad side of that. But I'll say quickly, you know, we're like most cities, we're very provincial, and you probably spend 90% of your time worrying and focusing on the Baltimore Ravens. But there's going to be 6 AFC playoff teams, and there's not one of them other than us in Houston that has less than 2 losses. They're all 500 or worse. There's 7 teams with 3 losses, and us in Houston with 1.
And Steve, real quick, I mean, it's just amazing what the league is transgressed to. In the last 15 years, 10 or more teams have come out of mediocrity or less than 500 to make it to the playoffs. So you're just seeing in 15 years, 10 teams, and you have those 12 teams that make it every year. And that's why I think everybody is so blessed to have you with ownership and the coaching staff and the players, because to get back year in, year out is not happening like it used to in my generation, even the 70s and 80s. It slowly got out of it in the 90s, and you just don't have it. So in order to do it, it gets harder and harder, and you just see what's happening.
Yeah, we have an opportunity now to continue that separation, and need to say Houston's a big game. They're one of the best teams. Statistically they are, and we've got a bye week afterwards. But when we come out of the bye week, if 5 of those teams win both their games, then we're still guaranteed 2nd place. The worst we can do 2 weeks from now with 1 loss and a bye is still 2nd place in the AFC. And that's what my point is that in the next 5 weeks, the Ravens can go 2-3, and everybody will be dying over it, and me included. But we're still going to be 7-4.
And in college basketball, Coach, you look at it the same way. Get to the dance, because once you get to the dance, if you run off, 6 or 7 in a row, that's it.
Get hot at the right time, that's for sure. But I just think it's amazing how much planning, how much work you do, whether it's football or basketball, to get ready for the start of the season. Then when the season starts, you've already played 6 games. I mean, it's hard to believe that, 6 games into the season already. And the bottom line is, you can talk about the offense, the defense. They're 5-1. The Ravens are 5-1, and that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to position yourself and put yourself in the best chance to get to the playoffs. And the start that the Ravens have obviously has done that.
But guys, I would just not to harken too much. Obviously, a big win again, as we talked about, 31-29, Steve, over the Dallas Cowboys. I guess as we talked about a little bit, we're seeing the offense, and we talked last year with you about that, about more additions to the personnel and helping Cam out more with what he's trying to do and having vertical weapons and such. And probably this year he's got the most that he's had, I think, in his 4 years here. When you take a look at it, though, obviously defensively, uncharacteristic. I guess we're not used to the offense carrying the defense. I again just wanted to expound a little bit your thoughts on the defense right now. I know it's struggling. Obviously, we have some injuries. John Harbaugh says some correctable things, but I guess as a fan base, we're a little surprised. I guess as a fan yourself, in addition to being owner, it's a little surprising. But your thoughts on how the defense can fix things, and also Dean Pease, who's a new defensive coordinator this year, certainly has his work cut out for him.
Yeah, he does. I mean, they had a chance to see a little bit more offense from us last year. And they're figuring out our offense as we go. And we've pretty much run the same system as Bruce will attest. Dean Pease's defense isn't any different. If you're a good defensive coordinator, you've got to design your defense around your players. And so, you know, we're struggling, and we knew we would. But when you know, it's the way of the NFL. Just like coaches' graduations, there's not a lot you can do when you let Corey Redding go and you let JJ go, and then Suggs gets hurt. And I can assure you, if Suggs got hurt before JJ left, then JJ wouldn't leave. We would have done what we had to do. We understood that there were certain things that we were going to lose in run support, and I'm really excited to see a really tough team on the road, because you know now it comes down to, why wouldn't you try and exploit our run defense? And we know that. And Bernard Pollard said some things to me, and said some things to the press right after the game. You know, 100 of those yards are not tackling.
That's true. That was
And
very,
you saw that.
very,
It was the
very,
worst.
Very true.
I think that they said that we averaged 5 missed tackles in the first 5 games, and we had 14 missed tackles in that game. So, you know, if we only had 5, we gave up 200 and some yards the game before. But, you know, people are going to, that's what offenses are doing now. They're spreading them out, and they're forcing you to create different personnel packages. And then you saw the evolution of personnel packages, just like in baseball. You see the relievers coming in and out of the game, sometimes 3 of them in an inning. And that's what they did. So the offense responded by going hurry up to keep certain defensive packages on the field, and that's what we're doing. So you know, I don't feel great about the Kansas City win. I don't feel great about this win, but I feel really good about going into Houston at 5-1, because that's all you can do. Yeah. So, I mean, I hate to, you know, maybe this will go national. We can't do any worse. After everything that we've done, we can't give up more than 200 yards. So if that's happened twice, then I like the challenge. I like my guys being challenged, and I love if Houston comes out and says, we're going to pound the ball until they prove they can stop it, because I think that we can do some things against Houston that maybe they're not expecting. So just get back on the horse.
You brought up, Bruce can also talk about this. You brought up a little bit about the poor tackling, which is league-wide. I also know with the collective bargaining agreement, again, reduced practice times and how many times guys can get into pads and practice. That really makes it very difficult for all 32 coaches to really get these guys to do a better job tackling. I guess there's some things you could do, but you can't simulate putting on pads and hitting the guys at full speed. It's a real challenge.
Yeah, well, it seems to me that we're doing plenty of hitting. We're just not tackling. And again, this goes back to 101. So this isn't something that these guys forgot to do. It's been an evolution in the defenses. And I think that what Roger's done, and with the fines and the limiting the area where you can hit, is you know, these guys don't have the kill shot to the head anymore, so they're trying the kill shot to the torso. Well, guess what? It doesn't work. So I think that we're seeing an evolution of these guys trying to back off the kill shot to the head, and they've gotten into bad habits, and then they're working their way into the torso, and it's the strongest part of these guys.
Stephen, you're so correct, and the lack of wrapping up, the lack of that technique, the head up and wrapping ahead, especially with defensive backs, and I don't understand it, because I came in the league in the early 70s. We never tackled in the early 70s once the season started. Yeah, we would thump and do a little inside the 10, and it would be live for the first 3 or 4 steps. But I can't imagine trying to, you know, if I had tackled Lydell Mitchell or Don McCauley in practice, Coach Williams would have cut my head off.
They'd have benched you.
I mean,
you don't tackle in practice.
You don't do any of that. So, and it goes back to playing defense, Coach. I used to come to your practices. If you want to play defense, if you want to do it, you will do it. That's what tackling is in the NFL. It's a want. It's a want to, it's a heart. If you really don't want to do it, you can, you know, whine and do the ball a little, spin around and try. But it's a want to.
But look at this. The interesting thing is, Coach got to keep him off the field. Right. He got to keep him off the field. He said, if you don't play defense, you're not playing, period. So he had that happen.
You did have that. That wasn't fair.
Right? Isn't that what you did? In other words, you play defense,
you either play defense or you don't play. But I had the luxury of...
They had to play both ways.
They had to play both ways. So that was part of any good team. And I really think the players at a Bruce Arians level playing in the NFL, they certainly have a great deal of pride. And they get tired of hearing people say, well, you're not that good defensively anymore and all that stuff. So that's what I think is going to happen. That's part of the progress of a team where relying on a Ray Lewis for so many years or whatever for motivational purposes. Well, maybe they have to get motivation from somewhere else now. Maybe guys have to step up and play a little better, be a little crazier out there in the field and defensively. And I think you'll see that this Sunday because players get tired of hearing what they can't do. They want to prove that they can do it. And I have a question for Bruce Laird. Did you guys wear helmets? When,
It kind of looked a little bit like this. But I did wear the first suspension helmet, Gary, and that could be why I have a few issues.
Just a few.
Just a few.
One of the things that was so pleasurable about this fall so far is that the Ravens and the Orioles have come together. Not since 1971 has there been a team that was a professional football team and a professional baseball team that were in the playoffs in the same year.
Is that right?
That's true.
95, 6, 7 with Bart
1971.
Jones?
Not the Ravens, or not the Colts, or the
Orioles
Orioles.
didn't do it in 5,
The
6, 7.
Oakland A's knocked them out all the time.
They came close, but yeah, not quite. Yeah.
But not since
I thought that too.
1971 has that happened. But to me, what as a fan of both teams, that's been so amazing and so thrilling, is to watch what we watched when Buck Showalter walks out there as the honorary captain. And the place goes crazy. And the message on the scoreboard, one heartbeat. How great is that? How great is that?
I'll say this because he won't. Steve really has worked hard over the years, not just this year, with trying to really make that happen. Where it's a sports town, Baltimore. The Orioles, the Ravens. There's been a lot of work in the background to make what happened this year happen. So it was great to see.
Good stuff.
It really was. And it's important to the fans because when you have an Adam Jones and a Buck Showalter and a Nate McLouth up there in the press or in the skybox, and you can see them at the scoreboard, and then when you have Ray Lewis and Ray Rice at an Orioles game, that galvanizes the city more than they could. It's like the old saying, the whole is greater than the sum of the parts.
Well, play your role. Win.
Right?
That's all we ask. Just step up, invest, and win. And get the hell out of the way. I mean, I'm serious. I'm friends with Peter. Just get out of the way. Just give them a budget, let them run the business, have your say. I don't think anybody knows how much influence I have on the team because I don't care to advertise it. But Ozzie and I are talking about a conditional 7th round pick in 2014 to bring a cornerback in because we lost Webby, and we scrimmaged for 30 minutes about it, and I changed his mind about a certain aspect of the trade, and he was like, that's a good idea, and boom, 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 and then I flew down here to do this show, and I was at practice today, and I did what I did, and I got out, but I don't go when the press is there. They get 20 minutes in the individuals, and then we have practice, and that's when I come out, and that's when I get to sit and talk with Ozzie. So I do what I do, and I'm comfortable, and I think that Peter right now finally realizes that if he just lets the team run with a good leader, that things will work out. And I don't think that there's 10% of this crowd that's not an Orioles fan. And if this was an Orioles roost, I don't think that there's 10% of them that aren't a Ravens fan. So we're all one. We are one heartbeat. We are one city. We just want to win. And I think they're a bad sports model, baseball. I wouldn't want to play against Pittsburgh. I said this to you a couple years ago when we were sitting here. I don't know that I would be the owner of this team if the Pittsburgh Steelers could have 3 times the payroll because their revenues are greater. I just get out because I wouldn't want to be vilified like Peter has been. So what you have to understand, it's the baseball model. It's really not Peter Angelos. He's a good guy that actually took this team away from a New York investment banker that went bankrupt, Eli Jacobs.
Oh, he was a hero initially when the first 3 or 4 years, and he was
Right.
on. He was a hero.
And who was the pitcher that he refused to sign because he didn't like the X-rays in his shoulder? And everybody just tore him up over that. It's like, now you're a doctor, but the guy ended up being a bum,
Right.
and his shoulder went out.
Who was it?
I don't remember. There was a guy. There was a guy. As a matter of fact, I was sitting at Bentley's when we were talking about us not signing this guy. He wouldn't sign him more than a 2-year deal, and this guy demanded a 4-year deal. So all I'm saying is, for all you Orioles fans, it's not Peter Angelos. He's not a bad guy. It's the model of no salary cap that makes that an untenable situation for Baltimore versus New York, because if the same thing existed with Pittsburgh, I wouldn't be sitting here tonight because I wouldn't be your owner. Simple as that.
More of the Ravens Wrap Show, more questions and answers we will get to, I promise you, next. Keep it here.
But we had just about every living Maryland basketball player there, and at the end of the game, they all lined up there was enough people, went from one end to the other end, basket to basket, and they all passed the ball to each other like a continuation as we were going to move into Comcast, and then 3 weeks later we won a national championship.
Nice. Have applause. Miss Marno, you got a question? Step right on up.
My question is for Steve. If and when Ray Lewis decides to retire, will we have a place in our organization for him? Because he's been a real backbone for us.
That's a great question. I've been asked that a few times, and all I can tell you is that I think Ray Lewis transcends a position in our organization. If he ever needs it, he's got it. But I don't think he'll ever need it. I think that Ray is on to bigger and better things, and I think that his heart is such that he would rather move people, and he can make his money in speaking engagements and endorsements, but his heart is bigger than his will, and I really believe that he's going to be somebody that you're going to be more proud of being in the world than being in our organization 20 years from now. How's that?
Well said. Well said.
Steve, you talk about the organization and the organization of the Ravens, and I look back to when Brian Billick was the head coach, and there were up and downs, peaks and valleys with that team, and I think when we were down at the Green Turtle one year, you said you don't want to have windows, you want to keep them open all the time. What's happened since Brian Billick left and John Harbaugh has come on board that window has stayed open? You've been in the playoffs 4 years. You're working on 5 years in a row. Is this an organizational thing? Is this a personnel thing? What is it within the organization that allows you to keep that window open right now?
Joe Flacco. And I say that, Tony, because I've watched this league. As you guys know, I bought 49% of the team, so I had 4 years to be an idiot and not be called an idiot, and then Kyle didn't work out, and then we went through Anthony Wright, and we went through a million different guys, and Elvis Grbac, and you've seen what we did. If you have a quarterback, you can play in this league. You can turn over your roster like the Colts did. And the Colts, it's like, I'm sorry, they won 1 Super Bowl, and that's all. I'm trying to deliver you 1 in a decade. You'd like to be a dominant team. I can't promise you anything, but have a good quarterback and you can live with the demise of Ray Lewis, Ed Reed, and then Suggs, and then over and over again. So it still comes back to a quarterback. In that draft, I showed about the most emotion that I've ever showed in my years as an owner about going and getting Matt Flynn because he was rated highest on our board.
Right.
And I said, I don't care if you excuse me,
Matt Ryan.
Matt Ryan. I don't care if you trade the whole draft. I'm tired of not having a quarterback that can keep us in the games. And it turned out that they convinced me that instead of trading up and giving a whole draft for Ryan, that you could trade back and get Flacco, and they believed there wasn't much difference. Well, they were right. They were right.
I know.
I'd say there is a difference. Flacco's done a lot better, especially in the playoffs. And Matt Ryan's a good quarterback, but Flacco's accomplished more.
Flacco had a better team.
Yeah.
Flacco had a better organization. He has a better owner.
Sorry, Arthur.
Doesn't he? He has a better owner. Come on.
And my Home Depot stock's in the tank anyway. So.
I thought I was thinking that. I obviously said it. No. It really comes down to I challenged them and said, give the whole draft up for the best quarterback in the draft, because I don't want to be an owner with a team that doesn't have a quarterback that can win. And I don't want to talk about number 2. I want to talk about number 1. And it would have cost us the entire draft to go get Matt Ryan, and we ended up with a pair of 3s and a 4 with Flacco at 18, and gave up a 3 to go back and get Flacco from 26 to 18. Mm-hmm. So it turned out that we ended up with Flacco and an extra 3rd and an extra 4th. I challenged them, but then I let them do their job, and they convinced me that this was the right way to go.